Hi, I'm Minjung.
I'm Tim Gordon.
My name is Paula Magni.
My name is Ginelo Moroba.
My name is Atira Menon.
My name is Tudor Sochiu.
My name is Tora Schubert.
My name is Hazrin Abdul Rashid.
My name is Napa Tandikun. You can call me Jazz.
My name is Nada Syed Ahmed.
My name is Abu Saleh Muhammad Afrin bin Nur. That's quite a mouthful, I know.
I am from South Africa.
South Korea.
Born and raised in Italy.
Romania.
Amsterdam in the Netherlands.
University of Exeter.
And I'm from Germany.
Malaysia.
I'm from Bangladesh.
Egypt.
I was born and raised in Bangkok, Thailand, but I was baked in Brooklyn, New York.
I joined FameLab because firstly it was one of those things I was dragged into. And I was like, oh, why am I being dragged into this? And then I realized the magnitude of it.
I've met and discussed my work with and learnt and been inspired by so many amazing scientists working on so many different fields in so many different parts of the world.
I think FameLab is really important because, well, in a world that's getting more and more divided and disconcerted politically and ethically, science is one of the few things that can bring people across the globe together. And I think FameLab reflects exactly that.
So I want to be that person that another little girl can look at and go, she looks like me, she talks like me. So if she can do it, I can do it.
The experience of FameLab for me has been an amazing, exciting moment of life.
My professor recommended to join this FameLab. After my presentation, she said that she cannot pretend that she didn't see my potential. And I'm so grateful to be here.
I love science and I love public speaking and communication as well. So FameLab just magically happened to be the intersection of both of them. And there's no reason I wouldn't love it.
It's also a way to inspire the next generation in going ahead and continue our science. Maybe we don't find the answers, but other people will in the future because of us.
If you're passionate about science, share it to the world. I really want to show how much I love about stem cell research and how much stem cell technology can help people all around the world.
If someone wants to participate in FameLab, I strongly recommend choosing a topic that you love. That's the best way to transport this passion to the people you're speaking to.
I'm definitely thankful and grateful to be here. I mean, it's been so amazing and fantastic experience so far, meeting all these other science enthusiasts and other scientists and learning about what they do.
Condensing information into 3 minutes is hard. And 3 minutes is actually, I think, enough attention that you require from someone to communicate anything.
Okay, I really going through the whole journey of FameLab and it's working actually. And it was a really enjoyable experience.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FameLab Malaysia Regional Heat 2021. Usually when I say this, it's always followed by sounds of people clapping and wild cheering and all. But it's okay, understand? We are in an MCO right now. We are in a lockdown. So I hope everyone out there who are watching this on virtual platform, I hope you are on the edge of your seat, tapping your fingers. Can't wait to watch our contestants' presentations this morning. So on behalf of Might Malaysia and British Council Malaysia, we would all like to thank all of you who are joining us today. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. However, do note that our contestants' presentations for today will already pre-recorded, ready for you to watch. So get those internet connection working strong because you are in it for the treat. Because if you came here for the science, hey, you came to the right place. So ladies and gentlemen, before we start, let me fill you in a bit about what FameLab actually is and how it all came about. So FameLab is currently the world's leading science communication competition. It all started back in Cheltenham in the United Kingdom as a science festival and has now grown into a global phenomenon in partnership with British Council. So here in Malaysia itself, it all started back in 2015 in partnership with Might Malaysia. 7 years into this journey, FameLab is finally closing down its windows because, ladies and gentlemen, this season right here is the FameLab season finale. You heard it right. And I am proud to say that on the international stage, Malaysia has already produced 2 international winners. That's right. And these people are Dr. Abi and Dr. Khairia. Such a proud moment for all of us Malaysians. So back to FameLab. FameLab is actually a 3-minute competition format where the speaker present their selected topics based on their selected STEM concept for 3 minutes, and they shall be judged based on the 3 C's. Now this is important. So the 3 C's are content, clarity, and charisma. So who might be judging, you may ask? Well, we are starting off strong with Dr. Liz Alexander. She is a consulting futurist and the co-founder of Leading Thought, who has written 22 non-fiction books that were sold in over 30 countries. Such a nice and kind-hearted person, I would say. Next, Professor Jalil Ali, with many years of experience in plasma physics, he has received countless awards and recognitions from his field. He's currently affiliated with Asia Metropolitan University in Johor Bahru. And last but I bet you certainly not the least, Mr. Camaro Bahrain himself. You may heard his name associated with Astro Awani because he was the editor-in-chief. And he has 25 years of experiences in broadcasting and communication industry and has just recently departed from Astro Awani. His name echoes on the national and international media broadcasting stages. Wonderful group of panels that we have on board here with us in FameLab. Thank you so much, judges. Without further ado, let's get straight into business because I'm pretty sure all of you out there who are watching, you are already anticipating and can't wait to watch the presentations for today. Alright, first contestant goes by the name Mr. Muhammad Samsudin Abdulhamid. Mr. Muhammad Samsudin is a senior lecturer at University Technology Mara, UITM Penang, and his area of study focuses on structural engineering and sustainability. Without further ado, Mr. Samsudin, take the platform.
When I was 5 years old in 1990s, the average earth temperature in Malaysia is only 25 degrees Celsius. But now it's already 32 degrees Celsius. For this problem, development and economic activities, increasing the CO2 emission to the atmosphere and increasing the Earth's temperature. United Nations Development Programme come up with brilliant idea by introducing sustainable development concept and integrating social, economic, and environmental factors in development and economic activities. Recycling is one of the ideas in promoting sustainable development. That's why many inventors come out with the idea by using tin, plastic, and also paper in their invention. Do you think that using those recycled material, it will give benefit to the environment or harm the environment? That's why I'm come out in my study using byproduct material from coal electric power plant, which is fly ash, to replace ordinary Portland cement from limestone, which is natural resources, in technology to examine the amount of CO2 emission. Either it gives a positive impact to the environment or impact to the environment. Let me share a simple calculation to give a better understanding. One single-story house will use about 207,000 kilograms of concrete. Fly ash with 0.123 equivalent CO2 emission per kilogram will produce about 25,000 kilograms CO2 emission. And this ordinary Portland cement with 0.107 equivalent CO2 emission per kilogram will produce about 22,000 kilograms CO2 emission per houses. Therefore, this resulted 13% higher of CO2 emission using recycled material compared to natural resources. Do you think this recycled material will give benefit to the environment or harm the environment? You may answer this question. This result was trigger my mind. Not all of the recycled material can be claimed as eco-friendly and sustainable. We have to examine the amount of the CO2 emission in this material composition before we apply as new invention in our development of a new technology. So we have to choose a very low emission carbon material in order to fulfill the need of sustainable development criteria. Before I end the presentation, I would like to share one fact during the pandemic years. It was recorded 7% reduction of CO2 emission and equal to 2.4 gigaton CO2 emission all over the years because of less of activities and economic activities. So this is recorded as the largest absolute drop since the Second World War. It's good in promoting sustainable development, but please be careful and don't misconceptual in recycling for sustainability. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Dr. Liz, do you have any questions for the contestant?
As you know, FameLab presentations are meant for an intelligent general audience. Why do you think your topic and your style of approach would appeal to the public?
Because the way I present my topic is really related to the public so that public can easily understand, because we're staying in a home and then we can easily relate what we can feel right now about the temperature, about the CO2 emission and so on. Because I think that with easy word that I'm using in my is related to all the people, and this is not too technical for them to understand what I'm going to share to give awareness to them.
Samsudin, I need to find science and technology behind your choice of choosing flash ash in your research.
Because the science and technology in fly ash, normally it is a waste material. So we apply in a concrete technology, so we embedded those materials to replace natural resources with limestone, ordinary Portland cement from limestone, okay, to reduce the effect to the environment. So sometimes we use other type of recycled material to replace the natural resources. That is a science and technology in a concrete technology to replace natural resources, because we know that natural resources is non-renewable material. So that's why we have to use this waste material to apply in concrete technology to reduce the effect to the environment.
But you're fully aware there are many fly ash alternatives such as blended cement, slag, silica fume, metakaolin, and other carbon miniaturization process. So how do you make your choice?
Yes.
What is the scientific basis for this?
Okay. Yes, I do believe that there is a lot of another type of fly ash. So I do make a choice from fly ash because I got a sample from YTL to apply in this study. Because of YTL already applied this fly ash in their production of cement, so that I choose this material. I didn't choose other material because in this presentation I didn't present other material because it is only for the purpose of this presentation. I'm also using blast furnace slag fly ash also in my study.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Ms. Kit K Mac. Ms. Kit K is a lecturer, and also at the same time she is a PhD candidate at International Medical University, and her area of study focuses on aging studies. Take it away, Ms. Kit K.
Do you know what is the current human population at this moment? It is 7.9 billion people. But do you also know that the population is aging? What I mean by that is people that are aged 60 and above is going to outnumber children younger than 5 years old. And this trend is going to continue for the years to come. And by the time we get to the year 2050, it is predicted that a quarter of the entire population would be made out of people over the age of 60. So that doesn't sound like a bad thing. It sounds like we're all going to live together for a really long time. The problem is, in older people, we tend to witness the emergence of certain complex diseases, such as dementia, Alzheimer's, even simpler things like being forgetful or having a hard time concentrating. And the reason for that is because the machineries in our body do not work as well as they once did when we were much younger. So as we get older, it becomes more difficult for our body to defend ourselves against oxidative stress. So is there something that we can do about this? So nuclear factor erythroid 2 related factor 2, which is a really long name. So I'm going to call it NRF2 for short. So NRF2 is a protein that looks like this, and it is found in our body. So when this protein is activated in our body, it can protect us from a range of oxidative stress, inflammation, or neurodegenerative disorders. So this sounds like a really good plan to the issue at hand because we know that the population is aging. We just want the population to age in a healthy manner. So how do we activate this protein? One of the ways to activate it is by eating vegetables, of course. So cruciferous vegetables especially, like cabbages, kale, or the classic broccoli, because they all contain an active component called sulforaphane. Now, sulforaphane in its extracted, purified, and isolate form, unfortunately do not meet the requirement by the Food and Drug Administration to be a medicine because it is not drug-like. It is not stable by itself as a molecule. So what I do for my research is I design and discover new molecules that are drug-like and are stable and can activate the NRF2 protein. And I believe that the outputs from my research can promote healthy living and perhaps take us to our commitment to healthy aging. Thank you so much.
And now we turn to Mr. Camaro for questions.
I'm just saying that on a Saturday morning, you really make my day because it's a topic I'm very much into. First, I thought I was going to be tsunamied by the science, but luckily, I remembered certain things. And when you said green vegetables, I'm all in. However, I do have to act as a judge, and I do have to ask you. There are concerns even published in medical journals in America, especially, Columbia and South Carolina University, about the detrimental effect of NRF2, especially in risk of heart attacks and stuff like that. So if I heard your presentation just now, it's like all superhero good for NRF2 in our genes expression process. But if I look at literature like what the Americans has put out, I get worried because the heart is also an issue for an aging person. So how do you help explain this?
Yeah, so that is a very good input. Of course, in all types of medicine, there are the adverse effects that comes with it. So what we are trying to do is that at the younger age, the NRF2 can be activated innately. That means the body can activate it by itself. But as we get older to up to a certain age, it becomes difficult for us to just do the bare minimum to defend ourselves. So if we could just give a little help to activate it to just the threshold level to protect ourselves, it should be fine. It's not just overdoing the medicine because all medicine, they have their side effects, which is what you see is true.
How does it impact the heart? Let's say it goes above the threshold. How does it impact the heart? Can you educate us on that?
Okay, right. So NRF2 is a protein that is right up here. So sometimes if I were to put it in an easier term for you to understand, sometimes there is a butterfly effect. So we do something here and it will cause more effects downstream, down the road. So for example, for the heart issue, if it is too activated, then it could have activated something else that we do not know. So that is why we need to fully understand the mechanism behind this protein as well.
Thank you, KK, Prof Jalil, and Dr. Liz. They are way younger than me, so I'm the one who needs this more. Cheers. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, that was very much the question I was going to ask. But let me ask you this, KK. Very simply, what is the relationship between the Kelch-like ECH-associated protein and NRF2? I understand that something happens in the body between these two processes. Can you explain very simply what that is?
Sure. So, for example, the Kelch-like protein and the NRF2, they're actually bounded together. So they're always together in the body. When there are stresses or things that we have to defend ourselves, the NRF2 would be activated. So the way that it's divided, separated, is called the activation, which is what I'm trying to do, looking for a molecule that can activate the NRF2 to do what it is supposed to do.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Mr. Tan Yong Chi. Mr. Tan Yong Chi is a PhD student from University Technology Malaysia, and his area of study focuses on polymer, electrospinning, and tissue engineering. Mr. Tan, the stage is yours.
Hi everyone. Have you ever thought that what is going to happen when you induce the electrical force on the liquid droplets? It sounds crazy, right? Yes. In less than a century, there was a guy called William Gilbert. Did the experiment and found that when we induce the electrical fields on the liquid droplets at the tips of the needles, we not only charge the droplet, but the droplet will start to deform from the hemisphere into cone structure. Then we further increase the electrical force. The accumulated charge will start to overcome the surface tension of the droplets and force a very fine liquid jet formation. This phenomenon is called electrospinning. A very interesting study, right? But yes, we as a scientist or engineer, we will stop our step to just identify and put a phenomenon, right? We also think about how to use this concept to make our life much better. So later on, there are some people think about, why not we change the liquid into a particular polymer solution, and you guess, this is something amazing. Try to imagine that when this polymer solution comes from the liquid jet for electrospinning, the solvents within the polymer solution will start to evaporate, and the polymer will stay in the very fine cylinder structure, fiber. So electrospinning can be used to produce fiber, and this whole process is known as electrospinning. Today, electrospinning has been widely used in many applications. Some people use it to produce nanofibrous membrane for wastewater treatment or air filtration. Some people also use it to produce ultrasensor for chemical detection. But my group will be more focused on the biomedical application. From 2019 to 2021, we face a lot of challenges every day. Not only the COVID-19, but also accidents, such as chemical explosion happened in Buret and also forest fire. They cause a lot of death and a lot of people suffering from burn or accident skin loss. So those accidents inspire my team to think about, why don't we use the electrospinning to combine 3 biocompatible materials, polyvinyl alcohol, polycarbonate, and curcumin, into one nanofiber membrane and use it as an artificial skin tissue for skin tissue regeneration. So after going through a series of characterization, in vivo and in vitro study, we found that our product not only can accelerate wound healing, but it also can help the patient to prevent bacterial infection during the treatment. In conclusions, electrospinning is one of the most promising techniques that can be used to produce nanofiber, and it also can be used to produce artificial skin tissue with antibacterial activity for effective skin tissue regeneration. Thank you.
All right, Prof Jalil, we turn to you again for questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Tan Yong Chi. You mentioned about biocompatible, especially for tissue engineering, right? Yes. Now, how do you ensure when you're using this concept of electrospinning in the application of building up the tissue scaffolding for skin grafting and so on, to ensure that there's no rejection at all?
Yes, thank you for the questions. And there's a reason, although I'm a chemistry student, but we know a concept that using the materials to produce membranes through electrospinning, although the material at the beginning is biocompatible, it doesn't mean that the product is biocompatible. That's why we also conduct the in vitro study and in vivo study to see that whether that has any cytotoxicity effect on our product. But throughout the in vitro wound healing and MTT assay, we found that there are no problems. And we also conduct the experiment using the mice. And based on the experiment, actually the difference between the treated wound and the untreated wound, we can see a very significant increasement in terms of the wound healing by using our product.
Any chemical effect on the biocompatible material generated through electrospinning?
Okay, thank you for the questions. Okay, actually, most of the concern of using electrospinning is the solvent that we use to produce the product. And that is the reason when I conduct this experiment, we spend about 1.5 years only study the solvent because we want to find a solvent they are friendly to humans. But solution formulation I cannot tell you, very sorry. But the solution, the formulation that we use actually is a very common solvent they use in the medicals and is friendly to the human and environment.
Thank you so much for your presentation. They always give me the tough ones, you know. Prof, he has PhD and post PhD, but never mind. I'll try to keep up. Okay, if you do what you said you have done, solvents and everything, I was just thinking rather than just tissue regeneration, can it also be built as a scaffold to be a mode of transport, to be a medium to insert good things rather than just solve a single use of solving the skin problem? It can also be a medium of interface to carry other good stuff into the body, for example. So I am very excited about that promise because of one innovation that can solve many things. Do you think that is doable? Because more and more that's being looked upon as a new mode of invasive treatment into the body.
Sorry, your question is that do we have other treatment for the...
No. My question is, as long as you're building the ability of tissue regeneration through electrospinning, that means creating the material to be used for tissue reengineering. They are more and more focused also about making it a transport for something else. Imagine if we can put a medication or anything else onto the material that has been spun to also act as a medium to go into the body, to go to connect to the tissue systems of the body, which means the biological input into the body. So that will make it less invasive. I don't have to prick your skin somewhere else. I don't have to intubate you or whatever it is. Because one of the main problems for COVID-19 is intubation. So I'm just saying, you know, working from what you're doing, how can it be developed further? Let's say if we partner you with world-renowned other outfits and stuff like that.
Sorry. Okay, meanings that yes, sorry, very sorry. Meanings that how is this meaning that how to commercialize the product?
Okay, let me rephrase. I have been not working for a while, so maybe I'm a bad journalist in explaining. Microfibers can also be used as carriers, right?
Yes.
Not just as a skin per se, but they can carry other stuff with it. So at the nano level. So I'm just saying, the solvent part that you have explained, I have understood. But I'm just thinking, if you're doing that level of science anyway, why can't it be combined together with the promising potential of making the microfiber as a medium of transport biologically to go into the body system? Because many other ways that we are using is quite invasive to the body. So if you're building science and investing in what you are doing, might as well work with that together.
Meaning that the membrane itself, we use it as a medium to grow the cells or others thing. Yes, actually, in my teams, not only me using this, my focus part actually is using the electrospinning for skin scaffolding. But I have my lab partner. Her study is studying using the electrospun membranes and then grow the cell on top of it. But that one is still in the research in the development way, because there's a lot of problem have to solve. because in order to grow the cells, growth cells is very sensitive. So in order to grow the cell on top of the electrospine membrane, actually is not that simple. So that's why we have a lot of problems that have to be solved. And another of my friend, he's tried to grow the bacteria on top of the membrane. But for the bacteria one, we already success grow the bacteria on top of the membrane, and can use this for not for the biomedical, but for the other part, for the other applications. Yeah. And in my team, our next step is that we go, because now COVID-19, we know that a lot of people using the face mask, and face mask actually create a problem, the environment's pollutions. It create a pollution to the environments because the mask itself cannot degrade itself. So what we think about is that we're going to use the biodegradable material to produce the mask. Meanwhile, we're trying to do that the mask itself has an antibacterial activity, so that it can kill the bacteria on top of the mask. Yeah, this is what we're going to do next. Yeah, in my team.
So in short, for your invention to be successful, the more partners and the more coalitions of science that you put together will be better, right? Yeah. So good luck with that, because in Malaysia people don't even understand what spike protein is. So, but if you need help, Prof Jalil is good and this. Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant is Miss Shaza Shakira Malik. Miss Shaza is a student from University Technology Malaysia, where she studies on industrial physics, specifically on optics. Good luck, Miss Shaza.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning to judges. My name is Shaza Shakira Malik, a 23 years old student. So today I would like to talk about laser and a method called laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy. Okay, before we go deeper into that, let me come back to some of laser examples that we usually use or see in our daily life. Maybe we have heard about it. The most common one must be laser pointer, the one that someone uses when doing presentation, focus on some words. As you can see, laser pointer have a laser characteristic of directionality, monochromaticity, and coherence. It has only one wavelength and it's a very small divergence. Okay, other than that, do you know about LASIK, the technique that reshape eye cornea so that you can stop using glasses? Before LASIK using a laser, we only have conventional ways where the surgeon will make a tiny cut on your cornea. So imagine having your eyes open and cut at the same time. Sounds scary, right? So by using laser have a high precision on focusing at small area and can minimize the damages. Okay, back to the main topic, laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy, or we call it as LIBS, LIBS. It is a technique to detect and determine all elements in a sample. By using this method, we can evaluate the relative abundance of each constituent element and can monitor the presence of impurities. It works when high energy interacts with the sample, ablate the sample producing plasma, and spectrometer collects radiation from the plasma form. Spectrometer convert light signal to spectral lines information. There are some research studies for using this method. For example, as determination of light in whitening cream and detection of elemental composition in honey. Okay, maybe you are thinking like, why would you want to know element in samples? For this case, it is important to determine the safety level, whether the concentration of lead is under perceivable limit or not, and it helps it helps consumer to be aware of the danger. So for honey, we can detect, we can know if there is a mixture of sugar in it or it is a very pure honey. So I guess that's all from me. I hope you get a little exposure and knowledge about laser. Thank you.
Dr. Liz, do you have any questions for the contestant?
Okay. Shaza, thank you for that. You mentioned earlier in your presentation about LASIK, which is very interesting to me because I have had that done. And one of the side effects that I was told I would have would be nighttime glare. Now, I'm fine with that, but I'm kind of interested. Can you explain to me the science of why this happens? Why do we get, those of us who have had LASIK surgery using lasers, experience nighttime glare?
Okay, this is a very interesting question. There, as we know, before we undergo LASIK, the doctor will explain to us the risk, the side effect after doing it. Maybe some of them can be permanently blind. We can even go back to have the myopia, hyperopia, but I'm sorry. This is I will look into it. I will look into the answer of my dissertation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shaza. Thank you for the presentation. I'm a little bit confused here. On the one hand, you are talking about laser. On the one hand, you are speaking about lips. What has it got to do with laser? With LASIK?
I'm saying LASIK is example of method, example of laser that we use. We know about LASIK. So I mean, example of application that maybe everyone is familiar with it. So that's why I mentioned LASIK.
Yeah, but you mentioned about lips just now, material identification. I'm a little bit confused because you don't use a LASIK system to do identification of your tissue.
No, because that's why at first I said I would like to talk about laser and a method called laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy. I want to briefly explain about laser, the example, before I go deeper into the lips. The system.
Look, I want to be a little bit nasty to you. Shaza, what is optical pumping?
The pump source that have the laser use. This the laser use optical pumping to pump the laser beam.
Isn't it to pump the atom from the ground state to the upper state? That's all. So when you want to talk about laser, you got to bring in this. This is the basic. Anyway, thank you, Shaza.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant is Mr. Pratipan Sharma Vijaya Kumaran. Mr. Pratipan Sharma is a student from University Technology Malaysia where he studied physics. Mr. Pratipan, the stage is yours.
Good morning to everyone. Okay, my name is Pratipan Sharma. You can call me Sharma. Okay, today I would like to explain the topic of laser ablation in liquid to produce the nanoparticles, basically silver nanoparticles. In my research, first of all, what is laser? Okay, a laser is an unusual light source, it is quite different from a light bulb or a flashlight. Okay, it is a single color source of light. It is used as special gases of crystals to make the light with only a single color. So in a simple words, okay, when those school days, we have been using the laser to play with our friends, but the power and the energy that we use the laser is quite low compared to the industrial based lasers. These industrial based lasers used to help to manufacture the they gives a lot of helping to manufacture to help the people to use in their daily lives products. Okay, in my research, I use the ablation process. What is ablation? In a simple words, we can say that ablation is where to help to break down a material into a small particles. So first of all, I would like to show a diagram, which is this is the laser have been used in my research, anti-yak laser. So from here, it will reflect the mirror and pass through the convex lens to hit it the silver plate that been used in my research. So this silver plate can be easily, as a target, it can easily become a bubble form. From the bubble form, we can see that it's a colloid, which is the silver nanoparticles are formed and it becomes a colloid form. From there, we can see before this it is under in the water. Next, it becomes a yellowish color, from white color to yellowish color. Okay, so why they produce the silver nanoparticles? Okay, silver nanoparticles in our daily lives as the applications. For example, first of all, they use in the food packaging, in food storaging, and they use as biomedical. Next, they use in to treat the cancer patients. Next is they use to help to produce in industrial ways to keep to storage the silver nanoparticles. Okay. That's all from me. Thank you.
And now we turn to Mr. Camaro for questions.
You know, forget that you're with your co-researchers and lecturers and scientists, and you're talking to ordinary Malaysian who are already shocked to our bones, trying to decipher whether there's this nano computer chip in the vaccine that we all have to take if we want to be safe. So suddenly you're telling me now there's this low pulse, high pulse, or whatever beam of laser that's going to create new materials and stuff. Why must we dedicate our important national resource? I would rather stop all funding for all research in our universities and get everyone vaccinated, every single person in Malaysia, right down to the few days old babies, and have that, and then only give you back the funding. Unless you convince me in the next 1 minute why this is important for the people of Malaysia. Why should I, if I come across it, help you to make sure that this gets our funding? I understand the science you were explaining roughly, but from your presentation, I just need to fill that gap. Why is this important for people?
Okay. Okay. In simple words, I can say that silver nanoparticles. It's a way to it's a catalyst boost for the for example, as you said that in vaccination they use the silver nanoparticles to store more storage. It can keep for longer time period. It can help to boost the medicine and keep as a longer period. In a simple way, I can say that's why if you wanted to use, for example, for antibiotic or any type of medicines, they have a time period to keep expiry date. So for that expiry date, this type of silver nanoparticles can help them to store more longer time. In my research.
Yeah, I'd like to jump off something that Camaron was pointing out, because, the general public is always interested in what's in it for me. So you talked about one of the applications of these silver nanoparticles is for food storage, but I still don't understand the science behind that. Can you explain how silver nanoparticles can help with food storage, and what dangers may be involved for human consumption?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Okay. For the science behind the silver nanoparticles, they used to, in particular, they used in food packaging. We have been seen if we left food outside room temperature, it can easily affected by the bacteria. So why we use the silver nanoparticles in particular? They have antimicrobial anti-fungi or anti-yeast to which can be combined with both non-degradable and edible polymers for active food packaging. So these can enhance the food to keep more longer period. In a simple way, I can say that.
But do they leach into the food, and are there problems with that for in terms of us ingesting them?
If we put okay on that research, I can't assure that how much of it can be affected the food, but it can be seen now these days. It doesn't give a much effect for the humans that who are consumed in those food packaging. So I hope it can be a safe uh, without a more negative part of effect of these silver nanoparticles.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Pratiban, I'm getting a little bit confused here, actually, to be very frank. Today is a very confusing day for me. So I need to find out, how do you visualize laser ablation? How do you see? You talk about colloids, you talk about nanoparticles. Are you telling me that we can see through our naked eyes?
We can't able to see through our naked eye. We can see the difference of the concentration. For example, the first day of in my research, the first day of the laser ablation, I can see we place the silver plate under a normal deionized water. From there, uh, with, after a few days of the storage, we can see from day one to day I take my words. After the laser ablation itself, the color will be the white to the yellowish color. So these can be seen. The concentration of the silver nanoparticles have been increased from the starting
No,
point
my
to the end point.
question is, how do you see laser ablation?
How do we see?
Because you're using a laser. When you're using a laser, you can even create damage to the substrate.
Okay. The laser ablation, when it hits the silver plate, it has a spark on the silver plate during when I done the research. So from there, I can see the effect of the laser ablation.
Let me suggest you, in the days to come, if you're continuing with this research, if you want to visualize laser ablation, you have to use interferometry. You can use shadowgraphy and all the other optical techniques available. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Ms. Norisa Nabila Haris. Ms. Iza is a student from University Putra Malaysia, and her area of study focuses on engineering. With best of luck, Ms. Iza.
If a friend of yours is having a hard time asking you for help, wouldn't you try your best to help? In chemistry, atoms and molecules are constantly helping each other out. Some molecules are poor, some molecules are rich in electrons. Electrons is the currency in chemistry. If a molecule is poor in electron, the surrounding molecules will sacrifice and give their electrons. This generosity of molecules is what governs the chemical reactions that are happening all around us. However, this generosity is also causing undesired reactions, such as corrosion. Steel or iron atom, for example, is very rich in electron, so that when it is exposed to electron-poor compounds such as oxygen, the iron atom will donate its electrons, and this results in corrosion reactions. As compared to CO2 emission and global warming, corrosion is not a really fancy word, but little did we know that corrosion is one of the major contributors of these problems. As a country develops, steel demand peaks and this means more iron ores has to be mined, more energy required, and therefore more producing more pollution. Half of the steel demand is used to replace existing products that are damaged due to corrosion. So corrosion is indeed a very critical issue, but often overlooked. So in my research, I'm actually developing a corrosion inhibitor, a compound that is very rich in electron and is based from natural materials. So it works by actually, as it is very high in electrons, when we put it in between two an iron atom and an oxygen molecule, the inhibit compounds actually will supply excess electrons to both of these species and being a physical and chemical barrier. So when this electron transfer between these two species are retarded, corrosion can be inhibited. So this 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 may be the turning point in dealing in corrosion, because as long as the barrier is there and the electron transfer is retarded, technically the metal will last forever. Hopefully one day we can find a compound that works effectively, eco-friendly, and scalable for industrial application. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof Jalil, do you have any questions or comments for the participant?
Okay. Thank you, Norisa. I could see the signs in your presentation, but what I wanted to find out is your way of tackling corrosion innovative as compared with the others existing?
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, actually, this technology surprisingly is more than 50 years old. Okay, but the difference between the latest technology and the old technology use chemical compounds such as chromates and sulfates, and these are now banned in several parts of the world due to its effect to the environment and human. And now, actually, the industry are focusing on eco-friendly material, but they are all chemically synthesized, means that still energy is used during the manufacturing and processing. And the latest technology, we want to use plant products. And these plant products exist in the research community for around 10 to 20 years, but surprisingly none are used in the industry. Why? Because it is too costly to actually extract all the compounds from plant material. So in my research, I'm actually using a byproduct of natural material processing. For now, I'm using oil palm empty fruit bunch waste. It is a waste, but still, we still to extract the compounds. But I'm using the waste of the processing of waste, so it's a secondary waste. So no excess energy or effort is needed to extract the compounds. So that is the technology that I'm promoting here.
And now we turn to Mr. Camaro for questions.
Okay, it's back to I'm gonna talk about karat. So basically this is rust, right?
Yes.
Because Prof comes from the very academic world, I come from the sawah padi world. So the problem is even the cangkul, the whatever you use in farming, it gets rusted and rusty. So I understand the global warming, climate change side of what you're saying, but I'm just saying, if you want to help poor people and the marginalized and those who doesn't even have money, but they have their own will to survive, how do we stop their tools and whatever they have around them for their daily life from being corroded and at eco-friendly and very economic friendly way? So if you can use all palm waste to do that, then before we go even to climate change, that would be really helpful because we will make the majority of our population survivable.
Yes. Okay, so of course there are two perspectives for the community. First is the community that is dealing with palm oil plantation will have benefits because their waste are being bought by industries for manufacturing of the corrosion inhibitor. But in terms of helping people with the tools, with metal tools, previously this research was conducted to develop a corrosion inhibitor for industrial application. So, for example, for the use of interior parts of metals that cannot be coated with epoxy coating or paints or everything, or also long pipelines that is very difficult to coat manually. So the use of inhibitor will be very useful. But now we are in that direction where we want to implement the compound in coatings or paints. So when we implement it in paint and coatings, that will be more eco-friendly and cheaper for the public to use. So they can buy actually a bottle or a can of paints with inhibitor inside it. So
And spray it only.
yes, exactly.
So how long from where you are talking to us to me buying whatever product that comes from your IP? Because you must forgive me. I've been doing this for 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, journalism and science, and I keep hearing good ideas like this, but I never get to see them on the products around me.
Yes. So currently I'm in the stage of making a tablet for industrial application for wastewater treatment. So for the interior tanks of wastewater treatment, and currently in the process of applying for patent. So hopefully after this stage is over, after I have completed the tablets, I'm going to implement this in coatings, because previously I work in a company in Shah Alam doing electroplating for magnets.
Okay.
So I
All right.
I hope to collaborate with them.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. But if you go to Cheltenham, some of them there, they don't even like palm oil. So,
Yeah, I know.
how do you
I'm
get
aware
past
of
that?
that.
Please include that. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Mr. Harrison Matthew. Mr. Harrison is a student from University Technology Malaysia, where his expertise is on industrial physics. Good luck, Mr. Harrison.
I'm sure almost everyone is familiar with lasers in some way or another, be it the Darth Vader's lightsaber in Star Wars or lasers used by surgeons to perform intricate operations on, say, the LASIK surgery to reshape the cornea. And no doubt, tremendous progress has been made by using laser technology up until now. Let me start this talk by asking the fundamental question: why should one study laser? Why should anyone know about laser? Laser is probably one of the most important inventions of the 20th century, if not the most important inventions, from barcode scanner at the supermarket to remote sensing that were used by satellites in space. Now, when I say that, it pretty much answers the question. Laser stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. From the name itself, it means that it deals with light. Stimulated emission of radiation, whatever that is, it gives rise to that light and it amplifies it. Let us try to go back 100 years into the past. The idea of the basic development of laser was from Albert Einstein. By expanding on Max Planck's insight years back, it took almost half a century later to materialize it, and it was perfected by a scientist called Theodore Neumann, who was a physicist. The invention of laser was a physicist. The first invention of laser was called a ruby laser, which was a pulse laser. This means that it comes out like a moving train, on and off and on and off. It is not like a continuous wave laser where the kind of laser we play with cats when we were young. The inventions of laser then took off after that when other scientists tried to build laser with different kinds of material. After 1 year of its invention, the ruby laser, which was invented by Theodore Neumann, was applied as a treatment of retinal tumor. It was faster and more comfortable than conventional treatment. It was then everyone realized that laser can be applied in various different fields. let us go back to the first question that I asked. Why should one study laser? The real reason why anyone should study laser is because of its unique properties. Unique properties of laser will lead to very unique applications. However, I won't bore you with the details. Nowadays, in the 21st century, laser can be used in various different sectors. It can be used in scientific application, medicine, industrial, and defense as well. The field of laser is going to be more and more advanced, and we can just hope that it will benefit us and make a huge difference in our upcoming future.
All right, Prof Jalil, we turn to you again for questions or comments.
Okay, Harrison Matthew, thank you very much for the presentation. Actually, what is a laser?
A laser is a device that emits light through a process of optical amplification. A laser is actually both a process and a device, and it's based on a stimulated emission of radiation.
How big or how small can a laser be?
Laser is, I think it's just very small. Yeah, it's very coherent and collimated.
Very, very small. Can you have very big lasers? Can I use a laser to shoot it from the Earth and I expect it to arrive at the moon? Can I get?
But it needs a huge amount of energy to do that. Like the satellite that I explained just now, it also uses laser to shoot at the Earth, and it is used to like create a 3D topological Earth map from above us in space.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Harrison.
Thank you, Harrison. I'm going to offer you a little bit of advice here. This is a competition to find the world's best science communicator. My feeling is that you spent a lot of time telling us about the excuse me, history of lasers. And I know that by the end of the day, we're all going to be laser experts. But it's really the science that we're interested in. Now, one of the concerns of our age, of course, is sustainability. And my understanding is one of the applications that you briefly mentioned around lasers is optical fibers. Am I right in that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, generally speaking, these optical fibers are doped in rare earth minerals, elements like erbium, thulium, and holmium. What argument would you offer to someone who is concerned with the mining of these elements too aggressively for the production of optical fibers?
Yeah, I'm actually sorry because my content today is, this is my first time joining this type of competition actually. And for the question, I think the question is a little bit out of my scope. I'm actually not sure how to answer that either.
Okay. Well, I mean, we would love to see you in the future, Harrison, and congratulations for having the courage to come and enter FameLab. But just bear in mind, I think as judges, we are less interested in the history of lasers, and it's a good idea to focus on one specific area in which lasers are applied, and then make sure that you can offer your expertise on that particular focus. I hope that helps.
It helps very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant is Mr. Ching Hao Chua. Mr. Ching Hao Chua is a senior lecturer at Sunway College, Johor Bahru, and his area of study focuses on mathematics. Good luck, Mr. Ching Hao.
There's an Italian plumber from Brooklyn, and his name is Mario. It's me, Mario. Here we go. All he has to do is to run to the castles to save this Princess Peach from this evil Bowser. As a gamer, I will control Mario from the starting line, move through all the obstacles to the castles. When I bumped a Goomba along my way, I would eat the mushroom to grow and jump and land a hit on him, for him to block my way to the tunnel. As I'm entering into the tunnel, realize that I'm no longer able to control Mario. Hey, Mario, don't just sit there. Wake up. Mario doesn't seem to be able to understand my language. It isn't me, Mario. I'm stuck here. Help. Can't move. Oh. Wait, hold on. Isn't this the horizontal axis and the vertical y-axis? I see. You are actually now trapped on a 2D Cartesian plane. Don't worry. For you to carry out your maneuver, all I have to do is just use the correct terms and the correct language for you to move. Let me show you. Now, translate yourself 5 units in the negative axis. See, you are now moving 5 units backward. Oops, have you also met one of these Goomba in the 2D world? Don't worry, eat this mushroom, yum 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 yum, and you will now be dilated by a factor of 5 along the positive y-axis. That means you are growing. Now, jump by translating yourself 5 units above the horizontal axis, and kaboom! Well done, Mario. Now let's continue moving to the castle, and you will eventually see a reflection of you in the eyes of the princess. Ladies and gentlemen, Mario didn't understand my command earlier because he was trapped in a 2D math world. For him to move, grow, or even to see a reflection of him in the eyes of the princess, I have to use terms like translate, dilate, and reflect, which are the terms we learn in mathematical transformations, also known as geometric transformations. Mathematical transformations is one of the foundational knowledge in the world of mathematics for creating video games graphics. Without a complete understanding of mathematical transformations, we won't be able to command Mario to move, to make this fantastic movement we've just seen, whether it's in the 2D, 3D world. My name is Chua Ching Hao. I'm a math teacher, and I hope I've aroused your interest to learn mathematical transformation in a fun and interesting way. It is me, Mario. Thank you, and ciao. Thank you.
Mr. Camaro, do you have any questions or comments to add to the contestants' presentations?
Let's try. Hi. Thank you for that presentation. I like the daring attempt to dramatize a sketch out of a very sanitized and black and white world of geometric transformation and mathematics, for example. Okay, I wouldn't comment on that acting part, but what I do like to comment is from the messaging part, because I'm a journalist by training. So I was just thinking, if you have a chance to do this presentation all over again, and I force you to do a 15-second intro before you start your sketch, how would you introduce this subject matter? I mean, you're a teacher, right? Before any class, you say, okay, guys, today we're going to learn about factoring. So then you start something. So I just wish, if you can do this again, I give you that 15 second. Can you please do that intro to me?
Exactly.
Okay, what is this sketch about? Okay.
Exactly. So the application of mathematical transformations in real life, for example, Dr. Liz asked earlier, when you had a LASIK, how come you have night glare? It's because your pupil got dilated. And much of this light comes into your eyes. So that's why sometimes we will have halos, we'll see halos and we'll see glares. In animations, in video graphics, enlargement, rotation, dilation, translation, reflection, the very common things that we see, we observe. Mathematics is a language to explain patterns that we observe daily. So for the mathematicians to understand each other, these are some of the terms we use, especially on the 2D Cartesian plan, so that one function understands another in an easier way.
Okay, sure. Okay, so this is more like advice comes comment. You are actually talking about my world, because I do linear and non-linear editing, video editing. So I use a lot of effects and a bit of animation. So the moment some glitches appear, it will always be the coding that appears on the screen. Especially in the old days, don't tell anyone, but there's a lot of unlicensed product that sometimes you use, but you do not know actually or then they will come up with all the coding. So what you are telling me in the mathematics towards the end sounds to me like that thing that appears on my screen, all this code. I know they are mathematical equation and programming equation, but they don't make sense to me. What makes sense to me is the user interface. So if you're talking about applying rules and sharing and scaling up and rotation and axis, for me, I would advise you, if you go to Cheltenham, to start with the user interface first before you jump into your sketch and make the link to the mathematics behind it. Because we need to, from a communication perspective, forget the science for a while. We need to bring the audience with us. So if you shock them too much, then I'm trying to grasp where you're trying to bring me. I want to be with you. So that transformation for me, from a narrative point of view, you just need a bigger hook. Like if you can grab my shoulder and pull me along, use that in your mind to do that. So that's the advice. But the question I have is, then why is it so difficult, even with AI and big data now, for people to really simplify changing dimensions, especially for things like videos and animation? It still consume many labor hours just to draw frames and everything. Why can't we let the programming set up all the hard work and we just change or translate and transform the rules, degrees, axis, rotational, 360 degrees, whatever it is. You get what I'm saying? Can you please give your input?
Yep, I'll try to answer your questions. That, I believe, deals with a lot of processing speed and your computer specifications. As a math teacher, I'm trying to deliver the foundational knowledge for any of my students to develop their career towards that directions to solve the problem that that you have just asked me. So for them to see that picture, they have to understand why are they doing it. For them to understand what they are doing it and why they are doing it, I use simple language, fun and interesting images to present the basic ideas to them. So that is what I'm trying to do. And to answer your questions, I hope I have done it in a certain way.
Thank you and good luck. But I'll get your details from the organizer so that you can, online tutor me on maths. I'm very bad, not like Dr. Lee. She's super.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant is Ms. Komala Selvamutu Raja. Ms. Komala is a final year student at Harriet Ward University and her area of study focuses on construction. Take it away.
I just took my dose of probiotics and now it's my building's turn to take its probiotics. I'm a quantity surveyor working in the construction industry. Are you wondering, what has probiotics or microbes to do in the construction industry? Concrete is one of the most commonly used construction materials and has a high tendency to form cracks, no matter how well designed it is. And even small hairline cracks can cause huge problems. It allows water to seep in, causing the steel reinforcement bars inside to corrode, and this can lead to structural failure. What happens when there are structural failures? We will need to repair the concrete, which is not only expensive, but may cause discomfort to the building occupants and can affect their core businesses and functions. The construction industry worldwide is responsible for 30% of natural resource extraction, 25% of solid waste generation, and 25% of greenhouse gas emissions. The Malaysian construction industry alone generates 26,000 tons of waste daily. And this is only expected to increase if we are going to be repairing every concrete structure. Now, imagine if bacteria that can produce limestone is added into concrete, thus making concrete self-healing. This is just like how probiotics produce minerals to ensure we have a healthy gut. But in the concrete's case, this bacteria produces minerals to maintain concrete's durability and strength. The bacteria that can be used in self-healing concrete is E. coli, Bacillus halodurans, Bacillus spiricus, and Bacillus pseudofermans. How does this work? Concrete naturally contains calcium, and these bacteria feed on calcium. So clay pellets containing bacterial spores as well as calcium lactate, which is an additional nutrient for the bacteria, are added into the wet concrete mix. Once the concrete cracks, the clay pellets also crack, releasing the bacterial spores and the calcium lactate. And during a crack, water seeps in. This activates the bacteria, which can actually be dormant for up to 200 years. Once the bacteria is activated, they then multiply and produce calcium carbonate while consuming calcium lactate and oxygen. The calcium carbonate is also known as limestone. Thus, this fills up the crack by hardening on its own. Therefore, we need to use self-healing concrete. This is in line with the Sustainable Development Goals SDG 12 and the 2025 Green Energy Target. So, what are we waiting for? Let's give our concrete its dose of probiotics for a healthy built environment and a happy planet.
Dr. Liz, do you have any questions for the contestant?
Kamala, congratulations. I think you've almost offered everybody here today a masterclass in what it means to have great content, clarity, and charisma where you're not having to fling yourself around. So congratulations. I watched your video and very much enjoyed your presentation. Now I'm going to ask a question which may be showing my ignorance, but I hope you'll bear with me. I'm just wondering, does bacteria degrade? I'm just wondering, are there some environments in which your process might work better than others? You know, if we're taking Malaysia, which is a relatively hot country, or we're taking Finland, which is a very, very cold country, what modifications might need to be made to the process to accommodate those different environments?
Okay, first of all, thank you for your compliments. And this is not an ignorant question at all, because self-healing concrete is something very new even to construction professionals. So what need people outside the industry? So environment does affect the bacteria because bacteria have optimum temperatures to grow. So in Malaysia, which is a humid and hot country, for a small hairline crack, it can take less than a week to fill up the crack, and that depends on the crack size. But for a cold country like Europe, Finland, it may take longer, maybe 2 weeks, maybe even more, because it is cold and bacteria, like you know how we put probiotics in the fridge, so that and food in the fridge, that they are not active when it's cold. And to increase the concrete, to speed up the bacteria filling the crack, we can only add more bacteria during the concrete mix. But this has a disadvantage because in normal concrete, we add aggregates, and aggregates is what make the concrete stronger.
Yes.
So clay pellets are lighter. They are not solid like aggregate, gravel or sand. So when we add more clay pellets, the strength will be compromised.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. But the process would work all over the world. It just has to be modified.
Yes, it will be slower in colder countries.
Right. Thank you, Kamala. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Kamala, very nice, excellent presentation. I agree with Dr. Lee's on this one because you are able to link probiotics with construction in the sense that normally when people talk about probiotics, they will go for something which is in the stomach, all right? Now, let me ask you a simple question. Are you familiar with fat bugs? Fat bugs are basically fat bugs. Are you familiar with fat bugs? Fat bugs are basically globs of fats, materials, nappies, everything which would clog the sewerage piping. Sewerage piping are also made of concrete, cement. So, where do you think will your work come of importance in this area where it could save billions of dollars actually?
So in areas like tunnels, you know, smart tunnel, when we go to SKF, we don't really, like for our house, we are always looking at cracks and for aesthetic purposes, but some places we cannot look at cracks, like in foundation pilings, basement, tunnels, marine structures, especially when there is water, there are river structures and bridges. So these are the places where there is no continuous monitoring to see if it's okay, if there's cracks. And a lot of problems we can see in Malaysia with the road structures and bridges where cars are just falling in. So this is where the self-healing concrete can work.
So, are you doing research in this particular area at this
No,
point of time?
I am not doing a research. This is for
All
my
right.
family only.
Thank you.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Miss Wan Irma Natasha. Miss Wan Irma Natasha is a fourth-year student from University Technology Malaysia, and her area of study focuses on industrial physics. Good luck.
In this semester, I have learned about in the course of the laser in medicine, and I attract about this topic, and I want explore more and more. Okay, first, LASIK is an acronym for laser in situ keratomalacia. That means to creating a flap in the cornea with a microkeratom and using the laser that's known as excimer laser to reshape the underlying cornea and improve our vision. For the excimer laser, have 400 nanometer and is monochromatic. That means have one wavelength and have a coherent. Coherent means that the wave light emit have a constant relative phase. In laser, in LASIK eye surgery, we perform to treat myopia. That means nearsightedness, farsightedness, that means hyperopia, and also astigmatism, that is known as glare eyes. In this, for me, if I have a chance to do this surgery, I will do. Because in my reading, in laser LASIK eye surgery will improve our right eyes and eliminate glare eyes and improve because result of the LASIK eye surgery we is safe and only take 5 or 10 minutes to finish the procedure, and this surgery will take 2 until 3 months to our eyes to completely heal. So many of us ask what the LASIK eye surgery is permanent. Yes, this LASIK eye surgery is permanent, but have a few exceptions because of the some of people have a problem of their eyes, so they have to appointment with doctor and have a correction surgery. That's all for me.
Thank you. Dr. Liz, over to you.
Wanama, thank you very much for that. I don't know whether you heard me say to a previous participant that I indeed have had LASIK surgery myself. But of course, this is something, laser vision surgery is something that's not new. It's been around a long time, and there are some latest advances, one of which I understand is called the acronym SMILE. Small incision lenticule extraction. And I'm just wondering, what do you consider to be the main benefits of SMILE over LASIK and one of its biggest disadvantages? So I'm asking you about how the research, how the surgery has advanced since LASIK, and asking you to compare and contrast LASIK with this new advance in LASIK laser vision surgery called SMILE. What's the main advantage of SMILE over LASIK, and what is one of its biggest disadvantages?
Thank you for the question. For me, in the laser for the eye surgery have 3 types. That means LASIK eye surgery, PRK, and also SMILE. For the in this the different about the this surgery have a different, but this all 3 surgery is safe and use laser to do the surgery. And the different about this surgery, as use the laser is take 10 minutes to finish the procedure of the surgery.
But what physiologically is one of the big differences? I mean, the flap, for example, you know, the corneal flap. Can you speak a little bit more about that and the difference between which of these processes can treat far-sightedness and nearsightedness, or one and the other?
Nearsightedness is myopia, and farsightedness is hyperopia, and also for astigmatism is bad eyes. For and the three of the problem eyes, we can do the lazy eye surgery, smile, and also PRK.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Wanirma, for the presentation. Assuming you are a medical doctor who wants to do a LASIK operation onto the retina, how would you determine the threshold power density of that laser to ensure that it is safe to the patient?
Before we do the surgery, we have eye screen test. In this test, we know our eyes is can do this surgery or not. For the higher than 500 power, we do the normal LASIK surgery. For the below of the LASIK eye surgery, we do the manual LASIK eye surgery.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant is Mr. Alan David. Mr. Alan is a student from University of Technology Malaysia. His area of study focuses on optics, specifically photonics. Take it away, Mr. Alan.
Light. When a 4-year-old boy talks about light, he would probably assume light to come out from a flashlight or even from a television screen as he watches his favorite cartoon. So as years go by, with the formal education that I've acquired, I know that light actually doesn't come out from an object. Light is actually the reflection of the sun that falls on an object, and we see the image, which is true. However, imagine if I tell you that light can be used to transfer data. Yes, information. Friends, allow me to introduce you into the world of fiber optics. Before that, what is fiber optics? In the most simplest term, fiber optics is simply a small narrow tube that can be either made of glass, plastic, or a composition of two materials. And it can be in sizes of around 125 micrometer, extremely small. The data that we have will be encrypted into light pulses that travel through the fiber as we send information from point A to point B. Fiber is unique. It has a special characteristics that normal light will not have. Like for instance, imagine being in an extremely dark cave without any light. When we turn on our flashlight, at first the light will appear very bright right out of the flashlight. And as the light spreads, we would see that it gets dimmer and dimmer. And at one point, at the far end of the cave, the light might not reach them. So in other words, energy has been completely lost. However, in fiber optics, the phenomenon of total internal reflection happens within the fiber, whereby light would reflect within the innermost core as it travels from point A to point B. So this is special because we can use fiber to transfer information from point A to point B, and these points can be all around the world. Yes, of course, as much as total internal reflection happens, there are energy that is going to be lost. So in order to overcome the energy loss, we will use amplifiers and also repeaters in order for us to boost up the signal, but it is possible. So in the world of telecommunication today, fiber optics is more preferred compared to copper cables. And this is because the signal loss through copper is far more than what happens within fiber optics. In fact, light is able to transmit information the fastest because light is the fastest known element that ever existed. So in telecommunication, the applications of fiber can be seen in our mobile phones, in conferences, and as well as in the home internet system that runs through the fiber optic network we have here. Thank you.
Mr. Camaro, do you have any questions or comments to add to the contestants' presentations?
David, put it this way, David. I work in the broadcast industry for 25 years.
Okay.
Fiber optic is a very key part of what I do because without it, communication doesn't get through, right? Especially to and from to get the foreign wires, like the latest bombing in America, either it's through satellite or it's through the internet download, which is fiber optic undersea cable, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Even for me, who's not studying science, like Prof Jalil, for example, and advocating it daily, fiber optic is already a known entity. So this is just my remarks. I will go to my question. So my remark is, you cannot give plain vanilla, especially to this set of judges, because we have been doing this for quite a while. So if you just throw plain vanilla, it's like giving us plain rice and that's it. Even Doc Lees, who has been here lesser in time compared to me and Prof Jalil, love our food so much, so she wouldn't take it. So that's a remark from me from the communication perspective. The question from me is, should we support the industry of fiber optics and the technology behind it? Because even though it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but it exacerbates and it promotes inequality. Look at the debate of the undersea water cable for internet connection across regions of the world. It's very expensive. It's very high tech that not many people have access to it. And those who control and can build it with the resources that they have controls the flow of information through fiber optic. Satellites is the same. So why don't we find a technology that can make it more equitable for the benefit of the global population? So if I am looking at representing venture capital, I would be against investing in fiber optic technology if it stays on its current trajectory. What do you say to that? Because I understand you understand the science of it, but do you realize the inequality that the technology of fiber optic and the industry as it is has really separated the world that we live in?
I do agree with that point. I think it is true that the rich gets richer, the poor gets poorer because of how they control this industry. But I personally believe, like in a personal opinion, I see the world moving into optics for the year to come, in the years to come. Like now, we started off with fiber optics for telecommunication, and as time goes by, it will be more implemented, like in medical field, in military, and so on. So I feel that at one point where electric goes off and people move into optics because of its advantages. So the countries that are not there in order for them to be able to sustain, I feel that they too need to move into this industry. It's just that the rich countries, the strong companies, they have started now.
Alan, that's exactly, you are supporting my point. I'm asking you to solve my point. Do you know that there's in Ethiopia, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are suffering, not even having access to food. And we don't even know about it. We know about Myanmar. We know about other places. Why? Because the undersea or submarine cable connectivity of internet to the continent of Africa is atrocious as compared to those to Asia or to Europe or to North America. So That's the point I'm trying to make to you. If we keep investing on technology, which application is very not equal, then we're not going to help solve it. So how can you turn the photonics, optics, or whatever else to work more for the poor and the have-nots of the world?
Okay, I would say in turning it over the other side of the world, I feel we probably can start off with educating the public, educating the nation what it does, and letting them know of its benefits, so that in a hope that in the future we all get to reap the benefits of what optics can offer.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Dr. Vincent T. Now, Dr. Vincent is a master's student currently at University Science Malaysia, where he studies on gastroenterology and sports psychology. Take it away, doctor.
Imagine in an enclosed room where you're positioned in a crowded environment. And then, all of a sudden, someone in the room just let out a loud burp or even a high-pitched squeak sound that sounded like this. And this is worse when it comes to strong pungent odor. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those might be the symptoms of abdominal bloating, a common problem faced by many but regarded as a non-critical illness by clinicians. Well, it may, however, affect one's well-being, quality of life, and even productivity. Hi everyone, my name is Vincent and I'm here to introduce to you a powerful technique that you can use to address your bloating issues. Now, the reason and the physiology of bloating is complicated and poorly understood. Researchers have tried to explain the connections between our brain with our gut and with our emotional construct. So studies have tried to use mind-body techniques like psychotherapy, relaxation breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, and even hypnosis to help address people with such conditions. And of course, guided imagery. Intervention that I am particularly interested in is also being used. Well, you may ask, what is guided imagery about? Well, guided imagery is actually a technique commonly used in the field of sports psychology. Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer, has tried to practice such techniques for 4 to 8 hours daily, and this helps him to attain 28 gold medals in the Olympic Games. Amazing, right? So now you might be asking, how do I actually implement this in my daily life? Well, let's take a moment and imagine that you had a big fresh yellow lemon on your hand, like this. Great. Now notice its heaviness and that fresh lemony smell. Okay, now imagine yourself slicing the lemons into big, thick, fresh, plump, juicy sections, like this. And now, take a deep bite of that section and feel as that saturating, soury tart sensation touches your tongue and bursts in your mouth. Now, the feeling was so strong that it makes your tongue curl and your lips pucker. Great, now imagine that same soury sensation is now swirling at the back of your mouth and slowly, slowly down your throat. Well, if you're able to imagine it well, you must be salivating right now, right? That's because your body understands the language of imagery and is responding towards it. Guided imagery is actually a technique that helps one to focus a mental image in order to evoke certain responses. Similarly to how an erotic thought came to your mind and there's like a constellation of dramatic responses in your body, or your favorite Korean artist just standing right next to you and that you're filled with so immense and intense excitement. So, right, a face-to-face session with the therapist is time-consuming and expensive. So my study is involving the development of such audios and to test its efficacy in people with bloating. And my objective is, number one, to provide a universal health coverage in conjunction with SDG 3.8. Number two, to remove health-seeking barriers. Number three, to facilitate adaptive and resilience response through positive coping mechanism. Number four, is to provide patients who are not mean on pharmaceutical therapy an alternative, non-invasive, culture-specific therapy. And lastly, believe in your imagination, because imagination is what creates reality. Thank you.
Dr. Liz, do you have any questions for the contestant?
Thank you, Vincent. Yes, you're speaking my language as someone with 3 psychology degrees, so that this is very interesting to me. Just as a point of presentation, you speak quite quickly anyway, but I noticed towards the end, it's almost like you were trying to pack in just a little bit too much, and so your speech was getting faster and faster, which makes it more difficult, I think, for us to capture your message. But an interesting message, and thank you for that. So my question is in 2 parts, and if Izan will allow me, I'll ask the first one first, and I'll do a follow-up. I'm wondering, yes, I was salivating. I've done the lemon test before, but what images are you exploring to achieve bloating reduction? You know, if you want us to salivate, give us the lemon. But if you want to reduce abdominal bloating, what kind of imagery would you, are you finding that is successful?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Liz, for your question. Now, to answer your question, it's actually that my imagery therapy is like a 12-course audio. So in each 12 course, I have like different types of imagery. Well, to name a few, I would start with the balloon, which is like, I'll describe the abdominal bloating is something like a balloon, which is expanding. And no matter how much it expands, it won't interfere with life. It's just there. So this helps patients to feel like, oh, okay, it's just expanding. So what? It's not going to affect me. And another thing would be like the scenery, which patients find it familiar or comfortable or relaxing. It could be either be at the beach, could be either at someone dating with someone at the beach. So per se, so they'll be at a very familiar place where they can relax, and this helps them to calm themselves down. Or it could be like in a river, where you put your hands inside the river and it creates ripples, right? So those ripples are like your gastric stomachs inside, those get acid gastric inside your stomach. So whenever you make the ripples, there'll be more distortion. And as much as this distortion, they are just going to be there. If you remove your hand, the distortion is going to just come down. So just relax and stay calm, and your stomach will be, relaxing. So that are just a few examples, to name a few.
I'm still trying to see if I get this right, yeah? So in the example of Michael Phelps, people who follow swimming and Olympics will try to Google everything about Phelps. His first coaches, when he was very young, gave up on him because he couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus. So I would like to weave into your presentation, but what I'm trying to understand is, so using mental imagery techniques, for example, for the kinesthetic aspect of what he does to be the Olympic champion that he is that the mind, through imagination, pulls the body to think, maybe think is not the word, to do the things that is imagined by the mind. Maybe if he can only move his hand 2 times in 1 second, now he can move it 4 times in 1 second, for example. Is that what you are trying to say when you link it to Michael Phelps?
Okay, so first of all, hi, Jack Camaro. We met once again.
Yes,
so to answer your question, well, there are like different types of imagery. The ones used by Michael Phelps or the athletes in the sports psychological field, they have like different types of imagery. So the ones used by Michael Phelps himself, it's actually called like kinesthetic imagery, like what you mentioned before.
Yes.
And of course, there are like phases of imagery to bring that patient into that deep hypnotic state, like a hypnosis you mentioned, right? There are like ways to make them go into that space so that they could, be really inside that scenario. So for Michael Phelps, I think the coach is going to be like, okay, just imagine you are in the swimming pool now, per se. And inside the swimming pool, you're going to swim like usual, but then suddenly you felt that, someone beside your lane is swimming faster than you. How would you react? And there's like a scenario where, now imagine that you have swim and get champion. How would you react? And if you imagine you are swimming, but then you get dragged down, how would you react? So those are things that his coach might want him to think about. So why do we have all this? Because why do we have all this? Because we wanted to let him have that motor skill in his mind. So if that things happen, he won't like, oh shit, I'm panicking. What should I do? What should I do? He'll straight away, I've imagined about this. Don't worry, I know what to do. Then that split second gives him the advantage to propel him further. Or another example would be like, well, I'm waiting for the FameLab turn to present. I'm like having jittering. So what I do is like, I just sit down there and just imagine what are the questions that the panels would come and bombard me at. So I would know how to react when they bombard me. So this gives me an advantage, I would say. Yeah. Or to link it to the vaccination scenario, which is very common in this era. People are afraid of vaccination. Well, some are afraid of vaccination because they're afraid of that needle prick. So to overcome that anxiety and that fear, that trauma, you could use guided imagery. You could bring them. So let's say imagine yourself going to a clinic, then you see the doctor, you see the patient, you see the nurse, you smell the kind of, smell in the clinics. Then now imagine yourself getting poked slowly down. And through that, we can like overcome these barriers, these health-seeking barriers itself, helping people to get more vaccines, per se. Sorry, Dr. Camaron. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Our next contestant is Dr. Nisha Govender. Dr. Nisha is a research fellow and a lecturer at University Kebangsaan Malaysia UKM, and her area of expertise is plant science. Take it away, Doctor.
Today I'm going to tell you a story, and this is the story of a beautiful princess who was the wonder in the air of a great kingdom. One day, the princess turned 21, and the king thought it was the perfect time to call for a wedding, for he would pass down his throne. So the search for an unmatched prince began. Invitations were released to all the princes around the world, and the king announced that he who proves strength, wisdom, and virtue shall win over the prince's hand. Throngs of princes came to the kingdom and accepted the challenge. They were physically tested and mentally trained. And of course, the best among them all had it all. Now, this old practice of arranged marriage has become a norm across different kingdoms, be it plants or animals. Now, let's look into the plants. Say D24, Musang King, IOI, and Udang Merah. We know them all. The much-loved king of fruits, durian, comes in different varieties, and each variety has got a different texture and also taste. But do you know each one of this variety is actually an offspring from an arranged marriage? Yes, indeed. The parent planting materials are crossed with one another to produce offsprings with desirable traits. Now, just like the king, these parent materials are selected. A plant breeder carefully sourced for these planting materials from a huge living collection known as germplasm. A germplasm houses a diverse range of planting materials, and they are known as accessions. These materials, they display a huge variation in terms of their traits, and these traits can be either visible or non-visible. Like just now, we had a look at lemon. Now I have for you the world's second most consumed vegetable, tomatoes. So what you can see here is same shape, same size, but different color. So the variation visible to our naked eye is driven by complex traits invisible to us. And these components are made of the lycopene metabolites, proteins, and also DNA sequences. So what a plant breeder does is that he or she dissects these components using complex algorithms and also high throughput technologies to study the variation at the core. Now, plant breeding is believed to have originated some 10,000 years ago when men started to select wild plants that suited their consumption needs. Over the course as of now, only 500 out of 1 million different plant species that are available has been domesticated. And what do you mean, and what do you understand with the term domesticated? That means this particular plant species are being grown for food. Now, since the Green Revolution, which took place in the early 70s, plant breeding had laid an important foundation in food security and sustainable agriculture. Thank you.
I can see Dr. Liz anticipating to ask. Dr. Liz, any questions or comments?
Okay. All right. So you obviously went over a little bit of time. It's always great to start with an analogy, but maybe you used a little bit too much time, talking about the story in the arranged marriage. So forgive me if I didn't get it. But I'm trying to make a connection between what plants do and this analogy that you've used of an arranged marriage. Now, obviously as humans, we've done that for hundreds of years using everything from astrology to obsessed parents. But I mean, how do plants, being not sentient beings like we are, how do they know to combine to produce offspring that are going to have these desirable traits? I mean, isn't it a little bit hit and miss? I think I'd like to know a little bit more about the biological process behind these arranged marriages as you are putting them forward.
All right, so the example that I've given was this particular king is trying to arrange a marriage. He's trying to find a groom for his daughter. So in the case of plants, the plant breeder will play the role of king. Of course, the plants cannot be dating each other. They cannot go and find, and they cannot go in court and evaluate each other. So who does this work? A plant breeder. So the plant breeder will evaluate all these planting materials. So germplasm is actually a site where we plant all the different types of plants from the same species. For example, let's say if I want to breed oil palm, okay? So I can establish a germplasm that has got different fruit materials. Maybe this particular accession has got a very huge fruit. Another one has got a very small size. Another one has got a small tree. So I have to evaluate each one of them based on the visible and invisible components. Then from there, I will actually pick all the traits that are of my interest. For example, let's say if I want to breed for a huge fruit, definitely I will pick an accession which has got a big mesocarp. Mesocarp is the flesh, and another accession which has got a very thin shell. When I minimize the thickness of the shell, definitely I can improvise or maximize, leverage on the flesh. So this, the crossing itself is done by the plant breeder. It's not done by the plant itself.
By the
so
plant
this
itself.
is very important.
All right.
So crucial.
Nisha, you're an all-star. In The Voice, they call all-star. People will come back again and try out again. Good job for you. Okay. I'm going to twist what Dr. Lee said because I understand tomatoes not tasting well, but in American, peanuts is one of the more sought after things that they want. And as the peanuts become domesticated, as you put it, the sets of chromosome also, the diploids and the tetraploids, right? 4 sets and 2 sets. So they want the best of both. They want the old form, the wild form of peanuts is very resistant to threats like fungi or bacteria or whatever. The better tasting one, like what Doc Lee's wants, but they are weaker. And it's difficult to for the germplasm line to move because of the different sets of chromosome. So why must we, focus on all this? Because if we are bioengineering super seeds, then why can't we just go that way? So that's the question to you. Because we have limited resources. A country like Malaysia, if we were to make juicy, delicious tomatoes, then we might be vaccinating less people, for example, because everything is moved by the government. So over to you.
So I would like to summarize the question. So the question is why we should opt for seed bioengineering instead of traditional plant breeding?
Yes, in terms of the output of it.
Okay, bioseed engineering, we have to know how it is being performed and whether it is reproducible. In any breeding program at all, reproducibility is the primary interest, We have to make sure that seeds are reproducible. Like in some of my studies, and some of the studies that have been conducted by my colleagues, when seeds are being treated or they are being bioengineered, the performance is not stable. That means like this time around, when I plant, I can hit the target yield. Let's say 7 tons per hectare. But then the next round, the next cycle, the yield declines. It becomes 5, it becomes 4. So we don't want a planting material which fluctuates. But if you were to opt for plant breeding, this is more stable in terms of reproducibility.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant is Miss Wan Nurfaizalto Shaira Wan Mokhtar. Miss Wan is a student from University Technology Malaysia, where she studies industrial physics. Miss Wan, the stage is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Wan Nurfaizalto Shaira binti Mokhtar. I'm 4-year student in one local university. So today, I would like to talk about my final year project that I have currently doing. So, before I state my topic, let me ask you a few questions. First question, haven't you heard about laser? No? Let me recall you back. You remember in your childhood memory, you used to play with a small pen that has produced a narrow light beam like this. You can see, this is laser pointer that has a small spot size on my palm. Or maybe some of you might be a little bit advanced, used to play with a pistol that has laser on it, just like this. You can see. So this is what we call as laser. Second question, do you ever wonder how we detect the adulteration, how we detect the pureness or the authenticity of the food? How we different between the pure and the fake food? So my topic today is about a method that we use to detect the pureness of the food. So one of the methods that widely used in our industry called as laser-induced radar spectroscopy, and the short form is LIBS, LID. So what is LID? LID is a method that determines the chemical, element, or physical properties in the sample. So how did it detect the adulteration of the food? Let's take honey as an example. For your information, honey has been both bred and imported to around all the world due to its high demand because of its outstanding medicinal value, and this has led to the adulteration of honey. So first of all, imagine this laser is high energy level laser that pointed on the surface of honey for ablation process. So what is ablation process? Ablation process is the process to remove or destruct some material from the surface by vaporization. So then it will generate luminous plasma. What is plasma? In simple way, plasma is ionizing gas that have equal negative and positive charge. Then light from the laser produced plasma be collected and direct to the spectrometer with the help of optical fiber to generate spectrum on the PC, which facilitate the elemental detection. So the spectrum has certain specific wavelength depending upon of its element present in the sample. So the presence of the wavelength we provide a clue that there are a certain element in the sample, and the intensity will determine the amount of the element in the sample. Or before I forget, spectrometer is the instrument to measure the wavelength and intensity. So based on the research paper and experiment have been conducted, there are expected elements in the pure honey. So in conclusion, if you're doing the research, if you found that the other element beside the expected element, then we can say that the honey is adulterated. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
All right, Prof Jalil, we turn to you again for questions or comments.
Okay. Thank you, Wan Nurfaizatul Shahira Wan Mokhtar. Thank you very much. Now, could you explain to me the science behind lips, or you can even call it lips?
Lead is a method that analytical method that is fast, and it has equal has equal detection for the all matter, whether it's solid or liquid.
You see, you mentioned that it is going to be used for material identification. Good. But why don't you use other methods like Raman, Fourier transform, and so on? What's so unique, special about lips?
Because it uses Nd:YAG laser and it operates in the nanosecond. It quite fast rather than the other method.
Okay, if let's say I have meat, which is buffalo meat, and I mix it with porcine or pork, can I use lips to detect porcine?
I think yes, because
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure about it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks.
Hi, thank you, Noor, for that. More comments than anything else. Again, when we're nervous, we tend to speak a little faster. Sometimes it was hard for me to understand you because of the speed at which you were speaking. Are you still there?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good. I think the other thing too is the way you started your presentation. Remember, FameLab is a presentation for an intelligent general audience. I think we are all familiar at this stage with what lasers are. So you used quite a considerable amount of time, asking us, do you know what a laser is and what have you? And also, it seemed a bit disjointed to me, making the connection. 1 minute you're talking about lasers, and then you're talking about pure versus, fake food, and then you go into libs. So just some pointers for any future presentations that you're making. Know that your audience is likely to understand what lasers are, so there's no need to spend that amount of time, actually doing that. But let me ask you one quick question. What is meant by the matrix effects, and how might that impact the food security in terms of understanding whether food is pure or fake? What is meant by matrix effects?
Matrix effect. Okay, in case we adulterate the food, then the quality of the food will degrade, and that's why we want to detect whether the food is adulterate or pure, because the quality is depend on its purity. It still has
Fine. Right. But matrix effects are basically errors in measurement.
That might
Is
be
that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Ms. Nur Anis Nordin. Ms. Nur Anis is a student from University Technology Malaysia, where she studies on business administration. The stage is yours, Ms. Anis.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to the honorable panelists and everyone. I'm Nur Anis Nordin from University Technology Malaysia, and today my topic is medicine for the healthy. And as we know that medicine has been invented to treat the sick, someone with sickness. However, the biotechnology and pharmaceutical have led the medicine to be used by the healthy people too. Can we imagine that if we can be an ultimate version of ourselves, the better version of ourselves by using medication? And the fact that medicine can be used for the healthy people too is because this has been also conducted by a survey where people can do much better in their examinations by using medication. For example, some students are taking medications such as Ritalin or Modafinil, which is what we call like stimulant, to actually making them work for longer period of time. They want to be more focused, as what we mentioned by previous participant, like Michael Phelps, who has a trouble in focus on what he did. And actually, this is what we call, he has been diagnosed with like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So due to that, he has been under medication like on what we use for ADHD is Ritalin, Adderall. So all these medications actually help you to be more focused and you could work for a longer period of time. And some people misuse this medicine in order to help them to do better, to perform better in their examinations. I mean, some athletes are using it to perform better. For example, one of the confession made by American football player Evan Britton, that he actually used Adderall, actually a medicine to cope with ADHD to perform better in the competition. And this is what we actually need to think about. do we actually allow our society to compete in such a way by using medication? This is actually unethical, and more surprisingly that some student who is using medication to excel in their examination actually think that it is actually normal to do that because everyone is doing so. And this has been proven by a survey being done by Global Drug Survey, saying that about 20% of the students use, not the student, I mean the population use medication in a year or a stimulant to help them with their work, with their study. So this is something that we need to think about. Do we want to compete in a society that use medication? So we have a divided society. And that's from me. Thank you.
Mr. Camaro.
Hi.
Mhm.
Let me understand this correctly, okay? Since I was small, I was told to be a good boy and take my medicine, ambil ubat bila sakit, take my medicine when I'm sick. Your
Alright.
presentation today tells us no. There are also people who are taking medicine without being sick, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, you term it as medicine for healthy people. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I want to go back to basics a bit because my mother wanted me to be a doctor, but I'm not clever or hard working to study to qualify. But I've always been interested because it's okay. Trying to understand your hypothesis led me to think: is the definition of healthy is the absence of sickness? Because in many parts of the world, in academic literature, they don't term healthy as the absence of sickness. So if I take what you have presented, it's not even that. It's making the body unnaturally better to perform certain tasks. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, you got it right. My presentation is about a medicine for actually for the sick people. For example, like Adderall is used for ADHD patients, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. However, a normal person like me, let's say I want to use it. I know I want to use it because it can make me more focused. Like what has been mentioned, Michael Phelps has trouble to focus, and he is actually having ADHD. And when he found that
Okay.
during sixth
Yeah.
grade, he's been on
Yes.
medication, so he can perform better. So
Got it.
this is what make people think that did he actually compete fairly with everyone? What is the leveling playing field for everyone when someone can compete by using drug and someone cannot? Yeah, that is
Adderall is a drug, right?
yeah, it's a drug, but it has been
So
misused.
So what's the difference between your topic that you present and say another topic that says it like misuse of drug for performance enhancement?
Yeah, so
Is that the
yeah,
same? I just want your
yes,
view. Is that the same or different?
yeah, it's the same. It's the
So
same.
in journalism, Cik Noor, we would have taken the second version because that is sexier.
All right, that's what we want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will leave the science to Doc Liz or Prof Jalil. Thank you.
Welcome.
Dr. Liz, do you have any questions for the contestant?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. Noranis, thank you. Very, very nice presentation. An interesting topic and obvious, one that we should all take seriously. Overall, my concern with your presentation is that, this is a science communication competition. At times you sounded more like an infomercial. I mean, it's good to ask the moral and the ethical questions, but it's like, okay, great, but where's the science? So here's a question for you. If the user of Ritalin does not have ADHD, and we know that ADHD is associated with low amounts of dopamine. So
Yes.
basically what the Ritalin is helping to do is to replace the dopamine or add to the dopamine that the body or the brain isn't producing naturally by itself. So my question to you is, I don't have ADHD, so what would be the danger to me neurologically, physiologically, to taking something like Ritalin when I don't have the underlying medical problem for which it was created?
All right.
What are the dangers? What are the dangers of Ritalin for healthy people?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Dr. Liz. The danger of someone who is normal for taking a medicine such as Ritalin actually to treat the ADHD patient is that for a longer period of time, they could actually has mental disorder. For what happened to the Evan Britton, the American footballer, is that when he retired, he has mental disorder, and most of the NFL players are using that medicine. So most of them end up having mental disorder once they retired. So same goes to one of the case in the United States that I have read. One of the students has been taking the pills to study for about 4 consecutive days, higher dose, and she end up being blind temporarily after the examination and spend the night at the hospital. So this is the danger of using the medicine which is not meant for you. But because of the short-term effects that you can be more focused, get to your goals, what you want. So people wants to use it. So this is actually the concern of using the medicine without prescription. Yes.
Excellent. Well, I would suggest if you are planning to communicate this message on an ongoing basis, you need to scare people. You need to tell them about the scare stories, and because obviously they will use things at short term. I'm very, very anti this kind of thing, frankly. It's like, you have a great brain, use the brain. So I'm very, very anti that. But I applaud the message that you're offering. I just think you need to scare people a little bit more.
Yeah, I should do that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you again, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Ms. Keshini Ganesan. Ms. Keshini is a student of University Malaysia Terengganu, and her area of study focuses on biotechnology. All the best.
Do you use reusable water bottles? Do you say no straw when ordering a drink? Good. Now, do you recycle? Do you know where your recycling ends up? Have you used a recycled product? Sadly, only 1% of the 4 trillion plastic bags used in a year is recycled. The rest being shipped abroad, burned, sitting on landfills, or is slowly breaking down into smaller particles on land or in water. In 2050, there will be 5 times more plastic than fish in the ocean. There are new inventives like edible wrappers, edible cups. However, it is impossible to completely replace plastics because of the demand for lightweight, flexible, sterile, and cost-effective packaging, especially with this COVID-19 pandemic. Face masks, hand sanitizer bottles. What if I say we can reduce plastic waste and earn money only by recycling? Ooh, how? Have you heard of the term blockchain? If not, bitcoins? Yes, bitcoins were the first application using blockchain technology. The term blockchain refers to how data is stored in blocks of information and then linked together in a permanent chain. Blocks have certain storage capacities, and once the information is full, they are chained onto the next block. When you transfer money to your friend, right? Your friend will never know where you get the money from, and you will never know what your friend does with the money. But the middleman, the bank, does. However, in blockchain, there is no middleman. It is completely transparent. Redesigning plastics using blockchain technology means we can trace the origin of plastics from the beginning till the end. Let's say you're taking a walk on the beach and you found a plastic bottle. By just simply scanning the QR code or barcode on the plastic bottle, you'll have all the information of who was the last person to put it there, the manufacturer details, the materials in the bottle, and the right ways to recycle. Now, this high level of transparency and traceability in blockchain system could help us eradicate illegal shipments and dumping of plastics. The public will be more aware and could be able to track the impact of their efforts taken in recycling. Blockchain technology could also provide numerous job opportunities and incentives to everyone involved. It could help benefit the homeless and poor just by collecting plastic waste. Plastic Bank is a company that pays people to collect plastic waste to reduce marine pollution. And besides that, there are some big companies that pay for fishermen to collect plastic waste from the seas and rivers and redesign them into clothes. The fishermen are then paid based on the commission from the clothes. Blockchain technology could build a community that changes the way we look at plastics, encourage us to recycle and use recycled products. This could be one of the best invention to win the war against plastic pollution. Thank you.
Shani, thank you very much for the quite innovative way of using digital way of looking at things, which is basically blockchain, right?
Yes.
My question is quite simple. On the one hand, you are trying to save the environment by trying to get back to what people have thrown away, all the unwanted plastics by the seaside or wherever they want to. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, now, but when you look on the other hand, I think you do know that anything which is based on a blockchain would utilize a huge quantity or a very big amount of energy, and at the same time it would release tremendous amount of carbon dioxide to the environment. How would you balance such a thing?
Yes, in my opinion, for so far that all these efforts that taken into reducing plastic waste has not been fruitful. Like it has not turned into anything. And the amount of plastic waste that is now and that will be growing with the growing population will even more increase so many greenhouse gases and even occupy so much of the landfill spaces. We are not even doing any big impacts to reduce plastic waste. Even if there is recycling, even if there is other alternatives to like produce biodegradable packaging and all of that, they also still cost a lot. Takes in many industrial efforts, takes a lot of labor and costs a lot more. And in my opinion, with the upcoming technology using all this artificial intelligence, robotics, and advances of the Internet of Things, we could probably see a way to overcome this limitation as well, because it is going to balance out. If we do something, we can come up with some ideas to reduce the limitations or to overcome the limitations, rather than do nothing or to go through with what we have been doing now. Because there are certain companies that have already taken it, but has not been doing by in a country as whole. So if we could do this, it could not only reduce the plastic waste in Malaysia itself, but could reduce globally as well. So when this is actually a global effort, we could come up with more advances, more technologies to actually balance it out. That is my opinion. So that's not like this is a disadvantage. I would see it as a limitation. So we could come up with the limitation. We could overcome this limitation with the upcoming technology that is going to be more prosperous in the upcoming years. Does that answer the question?
It answers, but again, as I say, anything that is pros and cons. You see, when you look at the amount of carbon dioxide being produced is tremendous. So it may defeat the whole purpose of trying to get back this plastic for the purpose of recycle or for the purpose of circular economy and so on. See, trying to get bitcoins or blockchain into the country to be implemented is quite difficult at this point of time. So how would you convince those in authorities, for example,
Yes,
in Malaysia, that you need to use such a thing? And they would say that, look, you are producing tremendous amount of carbon dioxide. What do you want us to do?
I would say that even if we are not doing anything or we are just going with what we have been doing right now, we would still be producing as much carbon dioxide, as much greenhouse gases, as we will be taking up more landfill spaces and all.
Keshani, let's not go too far. Just look at the mass vaccination process in Malaysia. The government is having a very hard time, even though it is giving free vaccine to the citizen. You see, to convince them that look, this is important, even for the sake of your life. Some couldn't care less.
Yes,
that is the point.
but this what I true. But what I could see is that people don't have much awareness on the impact of these problems. Like even that, there is a huge buzz going on bitcoins because Elon Musk bought some bitcoins, all the doggy coins. But people do not know what really is the technology. They are not aware of. So I believe that with proper understanding, with proper campaigning, with proper advertisements and all this, people would have more awareness on this issue, because now only the science communication is growing up. So by the time we reach the future, I believe that what we are trying to do, what we are trying to communicate, will eventually reach the people.
Thank you again, contestant. Our next contestant is Miss Siti Nur Atira Muhammad Kasbi. Miss Siti Nur Atira is a student from National University of Malaysia, and her area of study is biochemistry. With best of luck, Miss Atira.
Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera everyone. I am Siti Nur Atira binti Muhammad Kasbi, and I have been serving the Research Officer Training Unit on an Aspalapis for 4 years now. One of my utmost duty as a soldier is to keep the country safe from invasions and keeping enemies at a base. Armies work hand in hand to safeguard peace and harmony. With a comprehensive training routine, me and my fellow comrades are trained to deal with enemies that are visible to the human eyes. Even so, with much effort and discipline, safeguarding the country has never been an easy task. Nevertheless, tracking visible enemies should certainly be way much easier than the invisible one. Well, you have guessed it right. The invisible force, SARS-CoV-2 of COVID-19, emerged in late 2019 and has been colonizing us at a global scale to today. What do we know about this invisible foe living under the blanket? COVID-19 divided into 3 stages. First, stage of peace asymptomatic, whereby an infected person looks healthy, even with the virus detected by the nasal swab. Stage 2, symptoms such as fever and cough indicates that the virus has embarked on a roller coaster right down the respiratory tract along the conducting away. Stage 3, severe symptoms developed as a hypoxia indicates development of pulmonary infiltrate, pneumonia, and multiple organ failure. And so, how can we prepare ourselves against potential infections? First, always wear a face mask if you are stepping outside and never use a used mask. Second, sanitize frequently during your outdoor movement and maintain 2 arm distance. Third, practice personal hygiene, which means wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, and finally participate in national immunizations program with a simple registration under MySejahtera portal. Have you ever wondered why some people are able to survive COVID-19 and others have lost their life? The human immune system responds vulnerably during the infection, and thus the impact of the disease. Therefore, boosting the human immune health is also another key preventive measure against COVID-19. Immune health can be enhanced with consumption modulating vitamin C, Elvis parsley, broccoli, spinach, polyphenol resveratrol, belimbing buluh, ulam raja, and many other local herbs that are around us. With that, I hope we will always play our responsibility to protect ourselves against COVID-19, because when we take care of ourselves, we are caring and protecting everyone else. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Noratira. It's interesting to me that out of so many participants this year, you are the only one that is touching upon COVID-19, which of course is something that, you know, is impacting all of us. Obviously what you had to tell us was, you know, very interesting and useful. But a lot of it, like, you know, wearing a mask, it doesn't seem to be getting through. So I'm wondering whether, you know, what is the biggest misperception that you believe the general public has about COVID-19? And briefly, how would you address that so that we no longer have to keep saying, wear a mask, wash your hands, stand 6 feet away? Those messages are being reinforced, and for a certain percentage of not just the Malaysian population, but throughout the world, people are ignoring that. So what misperception do you feel is most important, and what would be your message to overcome that?
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'm studying biochemistry, even though my own father don't believe with vaccine. So it made me disappointed, and I think this caused media social they spread the false information about the COVID-19. At first, late 2019, COVID-19 in media social they spread at the first they had spread wrongly. So actually what I'm doing, I'm still don't give up to tell the people around us, people around me, that COVID-19 are harmful to us and the COVID is real. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Siti Nur Atira, would you mind sharing with me what is the basis of the science and technology behind what you have presented? Where is the element of science? Is it the chemistry, the biology, or the pathology of it? Which is which? Remember, this is a STEM. Yeah. This is a STEM program, so that element has to be there.
Actually, I think it's all about vitamin C that I have present just now. Now I just do molecular docking that I want to know about inhibitors that can inhibitor that can reduce COVID-19. Can you get me?
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant is Ms. Nur Atira Shahira Muhammad Hairi. Ms. Atira is a student from University Technology Malaysia where she studies industrial physics. Good luck, Ms. Atira.
Okay, so let me introduce my topic today is laser. I believe everyone knows and familiar with this topic because lasers are routinely used in communication, medical, even in grocery store, which is barcode scanner and many more. But do you know that the word of laser is not a single word, but it is an acronym that stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. In other words, the laser is a device that can convert a light into a focus and high energy beam. Maybe some of you wonder how can the light can be converted into focus and high energy beam, right? Okay, here I show you the unique characteristics of laser that do not appear in the light of the other sources. First, light Laser light has far better purity color than the light at the social, which is all the light produced by a laser is almost exactly in the same color, or we call it as monochromatic. The second one is laser light is high degree directionality. All the light produced by a laser light leave the laser by traveling in the same direction. One result of directionality is that laser light can be focused on a very small spot size, so it can greatly increase laser light intensity. This characteristic of monochromaticity and directionality together with the fixed consistency of laser light are combined into one single descriptive term, which is coherence. Coherence is what makes laser light differ from the light produced by other sources. For your information, in order to produce a laser, there are three processes, which is absorption, spontaneous emission, and stimulated emission. Let's say a laser beam does not undergo the stimulated emission, so the laser beam cannot turn into a laser. Okay, as you can see here, there is a torchlight. This torchlight does not play coherent perfectly because it is not monochromatic and directional. As you can see, if I turn on the torchlight, the light will spread everywhere because this torchlight does not undergo stimulated emission, but it's only undergoes spontaneous emission. That's all from me. Thank you.
And now we turn to Mr. Camaro for questions.
Yes, laser. Today is laser day, but my mulut is not laser. So I'm gonna ask laser science. So laser science is like this. I want to come from the issue of application. I asked this once today, but I'm gonna ask again. Yes, I get you, LASIK or ablation process using laser and all this, but there are also things that are using laser that have caused harmful destruction. We learn about laser guided missiles and what's happening in Gaza right now, for example, or Afghanistan or Iraq or even Syria, where huge amounts of highly destructive bombs are guided by lasers to hit their targets. And we are being told that they are smart bombs because they use high technology like laser. But how come smart bombs also kill women, children, old people, and even babies? So I want to ask you about the moral duty of any people talking about laser technology to the utilization of laser, because it looks like while it's being touted as the smartphone of industrial tools, it's not that smart if it's causing more harm than good. Atira.
I think as a person who know about laser, we should build awareness among us that we need to use laser in a good way. I mean, like laser has comprehensive in, in various ways such as medical and so on. So we don't need to use something like can kill a person, I think.
Thank you, contestant. Our next contestant goes by the name Ms. Nur Nadra Hanani Sarju. Ms. Nadra is a student from University Technology Malaysia, where she studies on physics. Take it away, Ms. Nadra.
If someone asks you about plasma, what would be your answer? You must be imagining the plasma TV or the yellow plasma in our blood, right? Would you believe if I tell you that there are 4 states of matter that exist in our universe? Yes, apart from solid, liquid, and gas. Plasma is the 4th state of matter. For a clearer image, aurora, lightning, and solar wind are the examples of natural phenomena. Let me tell you about the use of plasma to treat wastewater in my research. Actually, plasma also can be formed artificially in the laboratory, specifically in a plasma reactor. Now, imagine the plasma reactor as the grinding machine, while the plasma inside it is the blade. When we channel a dangerous chemical gas into the plasma reactor, such as toluene in vapor form, the high energetic electrons in plasma will cut or unbind the chemical bond into safer chemical compounds such as water, carbon dioxide, and etc. So to improve the environmental sustainability, plasma has been widely used to decompose volatile organic compounds or VOCs to treat them. VOCs consist of big molecules that are very stable in water and thus improving its solubility. VOCs usually comes from solvents such as detergent, paints, and gasoline. Now, this can contribute very high water pollution index that may affect the health of the human race. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great thing that we can see the plasma formation, and honestly, it is very fun to study about it. However, it is not an easy task for the researchers to swallow the reality that they have to encounter the impacts of the dirty human hands. Let's appreciate the nature of the earth instead of using more plasma to treat water pollution, because for me, prevention is better than cure. That's all.
All right, Prof Jalil, we turn to you again for questions or comments.
Thank you, Rani. Now, I need to inquire certain things from you. How do you produce plasma in your lab?
In my research, I did plasma in parallel plate of dielectric materials. So we have two plates that have a gap between it. So when current cannot pass through the dielectric gap, the electric field will be formed, and we can see the plasma inside it. So we must have to use the high voltage to form the plasma.
Okay, you mentioned that plasma has so many uses. One of them is basically treatment. Can you use the plasma to treat steel surfaces? And what will happen if you treat steel surfaces by using plasma?
Yes, we can use plasma on steel surfaces. As far as I know, it can kill bacteria that is living on the surface. That is as far as I know.
What is the difference between your plasma and the plasma in the sun or in outer space?
Okay. The difference between it is this the sun. I mean the plasma that formed on solar wind or solar flare. It is a natural phenomenon. While the plasma that I am making in the lab is the artificial one that we supply the high voltage energy to it.
But how do you make the one in the lab? Because you said the one in outer space is at a very high temperature. And the one in the lab, presumably, I assume your plasma is a low temperature plasma. But how do you make that plasma? You said you use high voltage. You mean when I switch on high voltage, suddenly I have a plasma. Is that true?
Yes, scientifically, plasma is formed when the gas molecules, the electrons from the gas is getting kicked out from its shell. So
who kicks out the electron from the shell?
The high energy from the high voltage.
So meaning anything which can be ionized at a certain temperature will create plasma. You are right about that. Thank you.
What is the key takeaway message from your talk, and why do you think it's important? I just almost want the top level overview, if you like. You know what I mean?
Okay, Dr. Liz. Yeah. Okay. Can continue?
Yes.
All right. From my speech, I just want to spread the awareness about environmental sustainability. So I want everyone to know that we have plasma to treat water pollution, and instead we can also treat air pollution using plasma. That is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Right, that was our final contestant of the day. On behalf of Might Malaysia and British Council Malaysia, we would like to thank all of the contestants for their hard work, because you see, from a one insanely in-depth scientific project, it's not easy to actually explain, articulate and describe everything in under 3 minutes. Try explaining about let's say how vaccination works, or even how global climate change affects us all, to a 10-year-old. You'll see it's not actually that straightforward. Well, back to the competition. Well, judges will deliberate the results, and the names of those who are selected to go to the final round, happening on this September by the way, will be announced after the second heat. So stay tuned, be sure to check it out, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.